Heads up, ghouls. This week's story includes mentions of disordered eating, sexual assault, drug and alcohol abuse, and suicide. Please take care while listening.
Welcome to The Ghoul's Guide to Santa Barbara, and oh, that's all right, we're married.
I don't know. Wait.
Let me guess. Is it?
Wait. I'm Summers. I'm here with Liz and Jen, and do you two want to take a guess on the movie quote?
Is it Peggy Sue Got Married?
No, but that's kind of a good one.
Is it My Big Fat Greek Wedding? I'm just
No.
gonna ask a movie.
Do you want a hint?
Yes.
Okay, think way older. Black and white.
It's okay, we're married?
Oh, that's all right, we're married.
God, I just have no idea.
Is it Swing Time?
What is that?
Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Oh, okay, no.
You said black and white.
No,
the
that's
only
good.
black and
We
white
just
movie?
like different genres, I think. Okay, so that is from the 1934 William Powell and Myrna Loy blockbuster, The Thin Man.
I've
which
never seen that.
is one of my favorites and was my relationship goals until I quit drinking and I realized that the couple in that movie are drunk all the time.
What is the
So the context is someone asks them, like, have you heard of the Sullivan Act? And she says, oh, that's all right, we're married. And that is a reference to the Mann Act, M-A-N-N, that had been passed in the U.S. in 1910. And you weren't allowed to transport a woman across state lines.
Oh my gosh, like it's
like a woman that you weren't married
Yeah,
to.
like she's a child.
Yeah. And it was supposedly to prevent prostitution, but was used in a really racist way. Like,
Shocker.
one of the first highly publicized cases where the Mann Act was a thing was where a black man took his white girlfriend across state lines and they charged him
Oh my
geez.
on
gosh.
it.
America.
Yeah, so gross. And then so there are like 6 Thin Man movies and they use that line in all of them. And okay, I don't know if they do, but I think they do. I didn't rewatch all of them for this. But
never seen any of
it
them.
comes up
I
in-
was like, I didn't know it was a series, but no,
Yeah.
you mean like they've remade that movie? 6
No,
different
there
times.
was 6
like 5 sequels? Oh.
I mean 5 sequels.
Did not know
no.
that.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, so that's the movie quote.
So today on The Ghoul's Guide, Jen is going to tell us about Edie Sedgwick.
I am.
Yay.
So this one is kind of cool because I was completely unaware of this connection. So, yeah. So, do you guys know who Edie Sedgwick is?
Tell us.
She was a Warhol, like a muse, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
Sedgwick Preserve near here is related to her family,
Yes.
right?
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Okay,
I was
so
not,
was
like,
she-
I knew who she was just from the context of
So she
like
was an
mod
actress?
60s.
Is that correct?
Sort
Or a
of,
model?
Model?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
read a book about her like
Which one?
20
Actress or
years
model?
ago, and I don't remember details.
Oh, okay.
Good story.
So Edith Minturn Sedgwick was born on April 20th, 1943 at Cottage Hospital in Santa Barbara.
Minturn.
I know. I'm just sitting here mouthing the word Minturn. M-I-N-T-E-R-N.
Minturn.
Cool.
It was a family name. Both of her parents came from high society and generational wealth and privilege, but mental and physical health struggles also ran deep in the family. Her family goes back like way. It was like someone in her family was Secretary of State for like during George Washington's presidency.
Oh, wow.
So super far.
Like a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Like huge family. Her cousin, like family cousin relation to Kara Sedgwick. Just
Oh, that's right.
very kind of integrated family in the whole.
Yeah.
Kind of very rich. Her father already had 3 nervous breakdowns and was being treated for manic depressive psychosis prior to his marriage to Edie's mother. And it was strongly recommended by his doctors that they should never have children.
Oh, wow.
However, they eventually had 8 children
Whoa.
because they are rich and they do what they want.
Wow.
So Alice, nicknamed Saucy, was their oldest child and daughter. Robert Bobby was next. Then came Pamela, Frances Minturn, who was nicknamed Minty.
Oh.
Then we have Jonathan, Catherine, who went by Kate, Edie, who was named after her father's favorite aunt Edith, and then finally Susanna, who went by Suki. The family lived in Cambridge while her dad attended Harvard. They moved to Long Island and summered in Santa Barbara in a house that they had bought on their honeymoon. While at school, it was recommended that her father focus on art in order to cope with his depression and nervous disorders, and he eventually became a world-renowned sculptor and artist.
What was her father's name?
Her father's name was Francis.
Francis. Okay.
He's kind of a dick, so I didn't really want to focus too much on his name. But
But if I was just curious if he was a successful artist. Yeah.
Yes, so he was a world-renowned sculptor, and apparently one of his sculptures is at the fairgrounds, at Earl Warren Showgrounds.
Oh, really?
And eventually they purchased a 50-acre fruit ranch in Goleta at 5100 Cathedral Oaks Road. And then after the war, they bought Corral de Cuati, a 3,000-acre cattle ranch in the San Ynez Valley near Fox's Canyon Road and Zaca Station Road. Just for
Okay.
context, if you know
Cool.
where those are. Oil was eventually discovered on the ranch. So they originally purchased the ranch with money that they had inherited from Edie's mother's family. But then in the 50s, they found oil on that property. And with the increase in value, they were able to upgrade to the nearly 6,000-acre La Luna de San Francisco
Was that
ranch.
Freaking rich people.
Rich people getting
Like,
richer?
Yeah.
I know.
What the
Imagine that.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
oh, we got all this money. Let's buy a ranch. Oh, look, now our ranch is worth even more money.
Dicks.
So while living at the new ranch at La Laguna, they isolated the kids on the ranch from the outside world and instilled into them that they were superior to most of their peers. The children were mostly raised by nannies and tutors, and they even had a personal school built on the property
Wow.
where the
Wow.
children were taught. And apparently they had a doctor that would come weekly and give the girls vitamin B shots.
Huh. Okay.
That was
Make them
noted in a
vigorous.
couple of the
Why?
references. So Edie's father was known to be unapologetically racist, controlling, and emotionally and sexually abusive.
Oh,
no.
good. He was a dick.
A quote from Vanity Fair is, "His sexual arrogance and sense of privilege seemingly without limit." So,
Yikes.
real
What is
stand-up
sexual
dude.
arrogance?
Edie suggests he began pressuring her sexually as young as age 7.
Oh.
No.
I was going to tell you, her life is really, she had a rough life. And so, yeah, I should have given some triggers at the beginning for some, for that.
Terrible
and also,
information to come.
yeah, eating disorders, that kind of stuff. So
Wow.
if you're sensitive to those things, maybe skip this one. Her mother is mostly described as meek and subservient and stayed in the marriage despite her husband's numerous flagrant affairs. On one occasion, Edie walked in on her father mid-affair, and he assaulted her, called her crazy, and ordered her to be tranquilized so he could gaslight her into disbelieving that the incident actually took place.
God, that sounds like sort of Kennedy-esque, right? Like with the
Yeah.
daughter maybe being a little headstrong and they just gave her a lobotomy. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yuck.
So, in response to her overbearing father and lack of support from her mother in her teen years, Edie coped through anorexia and bulimia. She was shipped off to boarding schools only to be sent home when her physical and mental health declined. Once home, her father often locked her away in a room and kept her heavily medicated while her mom doted on her like a newborn. So, pretty
It's all bad.
heavy,
Yeah.
parental issues. After numerous failed hospitalizations for her eating disorder, her parents eventually had her committed to Bloomingdale's, the Westchester division of New York Hospital.
Not the
Not the
department
store.
Not the store. While there, her anorexia improved, and she left Bloomingdale to study art at Cambridge in 1963. Around the time she left, she became pregnant and had an abortion, citing her physiological or her psychological issues for the reason she was not ready to raise a child. That was mentioned a lot. This abortion, they talked about how she had a brief affair with a man at Harvard, but really I just included it because I feel like it was a smart decision on her.
Yeah, she's
You
like
know.
college age.
I mean, when you compare that to the decisions that her parents made when they were
Right.
told that they should probably not have children based on their family's history of mental illness, I feel it was very responsible of her to make that decision.
Agreed.
And I feel like it's used to kind of be like, oh, this is another one of her problems.
Yeah. And also, like, that she had to justify it. It sucks.
But exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
In 1964, a day before his 26th birthday, her older brother Minty, who was described as being an alcoholic since about age 13 or 15, hanged himself while committed at Silver Hill Hospital dealing with mental illness.
Oh, gosh.
Although it was later revealed that he had confessed his homosexuality to his father, and his hospitalization may have been an attempt to quote-unquote cure him from this. Edie was devastated by the loss of her brother. Unfortunately, less than 18 months later, her brother Bobby, who suffered several breakdowns as well earlier in the year, was riding his motorcycle without a helmet and collided with a bus on New Year's Eve in 1965.
Yikes.
He died 2 weeks later of his injuries.
Oh.
So Edie moved to New York in 1965 to pursue a career in modeling using the trust fund of $80,000 she received from her maternal grandmother when she turned 21. It was there that she met Andy Warhol, who she collaborated with for about a year at the Factory, his art studio / party spot. The Factory held numerous local incarnations, and the regulars are a list of the who's who of 60s musicians, artists, and celebrities, including David Bowie, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Debbie Harry, Betsy Johnson, the Velvet Underground, and Grace Jones.
Betsy Johnson hung around there? Wow.
Yeah, lots of people. Interesting fact, one of the former locations of the Factory in its incarnations is now a Petco.
Why is that funny?
I thought it was enough to write it down. During this time, the two made multiple films together, which were mostly considered avant-garde and shown in underground theaters or at the Factory during private screenings. It was also then that Edie developed her distinct trademark style of leotards, tights, mini dresses, large chandelier earrings, and heavy eye makeup, which helped define the fashion trends of the mod era. She cut her naturally brown hair and dyed it with silver spray, matching Warhol and securing herself as his superstar, quote unquote, and muse. Conflicting info surrounding the deterioration of their relationship suggests maybe Edie wanted to be compensated more for her acting and or break out into more mainstream roles, but it was also during her time at the Factory that Edie started drinking heavily and using recreational drugs.
Not surprising.
So, yeah, there's lots of stories about, like, there's this anecdote about how she fell in love with Bob Dylan and she might have believed that he felt the same way about her, but then people try to say that he, like, didn't return her affections and that kind of messed her up. But again, I feel like it's kind of just trying to make a man star in her story.
Yeah.
I mean, she already had plenty of things.
And she had alcoholism in her family.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah.
Exactly. It's not like she needed Bob Dylan to, things were pretty bad. Although she had been previously linked to many of the Factory regulars, for most of '66, Edie was in a relationship with singer-songwriter Bob Newirth. She was also struggling with an ever-increasing dependence on barbiturates, heroin, and speed.
Oh, no.
And with both
Yikes.
her modeling career and her relationship both failing, she started selling antiques and art she stole from her grandmother's apartment to support her drug habit. She was also arrested and placed on probation for dealing and hit rock bottom when her apartment almost burned down with her inside of it. She survived but suffered burns on her arms, legs, and back after
Whoa.
candles left unattended engulfed the apartment in flames.
Yikes.
Yeah. She was sent back to California and committed once again to a mental hospital, but was discharged and moved back to New York, where her addictive behaviors continued, fueling more hospitalizations until she was committed once again after overdosing on speed. So some of the stuff that I read mentioned that she had a very engaging personality. And so she was able to manipulate staff into kind of giving her more drugs or releasing her before she was actually ready.
Okay.
So I think that fueled you can tell that it was just a long series of hospitalizations and then releases. Edie's father passed away at Cottage Hospital in 1976 after a lengthy hospitalization for pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
In early 1969, or no, sorry, that might be 1966 because
Who cares? He sucks.
she was in the hospital in New York when her dad died in the hospital in Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay.
So she found out that her dad had died when she was discharged. In early 1969, she had recovered enough to move out to an apartment near UCSB to help care for her mother. But by August, she was institutionalized again after a drug bust into the psychiatric ward at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. It was here in rehab that she met her future husband, Michael Post. They were married at the family ranch in 1971, and they were deeply in love. Michael was a calming presence for Edie and encouraged her to stay off certain drugs and avoid drinking, but by later that year, she had relapsed once again. 4 months after their wedding, on November 16th, 1971, Edie attended a reception and fashion show at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art for fashion designer Michael Novarese. At the after party where guests were drinking heavily, a woman approached Edie and began verbally attacking her and disparaging her for her drug use. Yeah, like you do. The guest was removed, but as she was deeply upset by the interaction, Edie called her husband to join her at the party. I heard different articles mention that she was drinking heavily at the party, and that may have contributed to her being more upset about this kind of altercation. But the couple stayed until around 1 a.m. when they returned to their apartment on De La Vina and Quinto Streets.
Oh.
My husband and I, when we first moved in together, lived off De La Vina and Quinto Street.
Yeah,
wow.
a friend of mine lived there as well.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I have to look up if they were neighbors.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, couple decades
different
before,
times.
but before going to bed, her husband Michael gave her the barbiturate she had been prescribed for pain management. The next day, Michael woke up to find Edie unresponsive in bed.
No.
According to her autopsy report, her death was indicated as an accidental overdose. Edie was 28 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize she died so
Short
young.
and tough.
God, how did she have time to have all that trauma in 28?
28 short years.
Yeah.
Gosh.
After her father's death, the family's La Laguna Ranch was partially bequeathed to UC Santa Barbara, and with help from a campaign by the Land Trust of Santa Barbara County in the mid-1990s, the balance was acquired and converted to a natural reserve. Today, it is used extensively for research, the arts, and educational programs, and visited by scientists and researchers from around the globe for ecological, agricultural, and astronomical research projects.
That's Sedgwick Preserve, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Despite her family's history of mental health concerns and struggle with addiction, Edie's remembered as a kind, loving, and naive person. She was sheltered and homeschooled, and as such, she lacked the worldliness that may have safeguarded her from trusting people who seek to take advantage or manipulate. In the midst of her seemingly idyllic circumstances, there existed much tragedy. Perhaps this is why the property that her and her siblings once roamed, grasping for solace amongst the overbearing rules of their parents, is reported as being haunted.
Oh.
Visitors to the reserve report seeing shadowy figures in Mr. Sedgwick's former studio. Noises are heard coming from the bunkhouse buildings that served as the children's room while the main house was being built, and researchers and residents have witnessed a man riding his horse in the area when no one is around. Some have heard phantom horse hooves approaching at sunset and dawn. Some reports have heard laughter from in the ranch house, but found empty rooms upon inspection. Perhaps these are spirits of the Sedgwick family, or maybe the land is still visited by its previous owners, the Chumash people, who inhabited the site 2,000 years prior. Regardless of any paranormal activity, the Sedgwick Reserve serves as a legacy for the family, but more importantly, as a diverse ecosystem that will hopefully remain preserved in perpetuity. And that's
Nice.
the story of Edie.
I mean, not nice.
I'm terrible.
Was so sad.
Yeah.
Awesome
Tragic,
job.
short life.
I think it's wild that drug and alcohol addiction was treated by just putting you in a mental hospital at that time. Like, there were recovery programs, but they were just like amping up since like around 1940, I think. And so,
really?
like, if you were an alcoholic or a drug addict, they would just like lock you up and let you have your withdrawal, and they would maybe poison you a little, like give you belladonna treatment and stuff, and like
Really?
just awful. And like people just, the same cycle would happen over and over
You
again.
just come out and get back on it.
Yeah. It was like as soon as you were out, you'd relapse and then go back in.
Right.
When you were like basically insane again.
Yeah, it sounds like they just kind of like locked you up. Like, okay, well, she's having a tough time again. Let's lock her up, and then we'll just keep her there for a while, and then we'll just, she seems to be doing a little better. Let's just let her go, and then she'll be back.
Jen's adorable daughter just walked in and held up a pad of paper with a question on it. I didn't see what it was, though.
It was very important. She wanted to know if she could have Oreos.
Excellent.
Oh my goodness. Poor Edie. Terrible.
Yeah, I honestly did not know that she was from here, that she lived here,
Neither
and
did
that
I.
she died here.
No idea. Yeah.
I knew that there was that family connection, but
Interestingly, I worked shortly after the Sedgwick Preserve had been established as a reserve, they remodeled the ranch house to be kind of a residence for researchers and stuff like that. Oh. And the company that I was working for did the construction, and so I actually got to go up and tour the property.
Oh, I was going to ask if either of you had ever been there.
Yeah, and so that was kind of my first introduction to conservation by bureaucracy, I guess you could say, which kind of like was the start of, kind of leaning into that field.
Yeah. I kept saying Sedgwick Preserve, but it's Sedgwick Reserve.
Yes,
yeah.
I think I said preserve.
You said reserve.
And then I changed it. I corrected myself to reserve.
Have you ever been up there summers?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah,
Not a big outdoorsy person, more of an indoor person.
There used to be it might still be there, but they also had a great, they had a trail cam up there, and you could go online and check out what.
Fun. I wonder if that's still there.
Yeah.
I was walking
Could see
around.
If we could link that.
We'll put a link if it's on there.
Okay, in Santa Barbara, I think around the time she would have been alive, I think, there was a place in Montecito that was a drug and alcohol treatment center, and they would basically like usher you into a room, and it was all filled with all the alcohol types in the world, and they were like, go crazy, and you would go in there and drink, and then they would give you something that made you violently ill, and it was supposed to be aversion therapy. Like,
my gosh.
Insane. Maybe I'll do that for another
Another
episode. We can talk about barfing.
Here, have some Ipecac. Now you're cured.
But just, bringing it up, just like the wild things that people tried, because addiction just so difficult to treat. Okay, so inspired by that, let's do an 8-ball question. Should we ask about, is there paranormal activity at the Sedgwick Preserve?
Reserve?
Reserve.
Yeah. No, that's my fault.
Is the Sedgwick Reserve haunted?
I know, it's hard to read.
I literally can't read it. It says most likely.
Yes.
Is it just stuck on most likely?
No, mine didn't say that last time.
All right.
I want to hear phantom hoof prints.
If you have visited Sedgwick Reserve, please let us know if you've
experienced any paranormal activity at Sedgwick.
Yeah.
Sedgwick would love
Shoot
to
us
hear.
an email. You can email us through our website or directly Ghoul's Guide to sb@gmail.com. Or tell us on the social medias at Ghoul's Guide to SB.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Ghoul's Guide to Santa Barbara. Like and subscribe on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Ghoul's Guide to SB.
Our website is ghoulsguidetosb.com. Got a spooky story or know of a haunted or paranormal location in Santa Barbara? Send it to us at ghoulsguidetosb@gmail.com.